This is my third time in DSS ITSEC as a speaker, so it's kind of a habit already. And this is also the third time that I'm talking about WAFs. So first, before we start anything, is to understand that when we talk about digitalization, it's still like the hot topic. Everybody wants to talk about digitalization. Yeah, everything is going to be code. So if we consider code, more we have code, more problems we are going to have. There's going to be more vulnerabilities. There's going to be more errors. So we can kind of redefine E equals MC square in terms of information security, and also in a sense of coding. So if you have ever patched anything, you know that there are certain things that you will see when you do patches year after year. You will get same problems back years after. There might be something wrong with the patching process, or it might be just something with the vendor, how they branch their code. So today I'm going to talk about web applications and web application security. Why is this so important? If you follow any kind of security news, you see that there's a lot of information security breaches, and about 1/3, roughly, is caused by something that goes through your web application. That's the one that is causing most of those kind of serious problems. Like, look at Facebook. It's like, okay, we are sorry, it's on like 30 million, 50 million user account information is probably disclosed, and it is actually pretty damn serious. So, other thing is that there has been a huge growth into web application vulnerabilities and also the breaches that we see. There's more attacks that are recognized, and this number is getting bigger also partially because it's better understood that you need to have some kind of protection mechanism in front of your applications to see what happens to your web application. It was like 5 years ago when I went to customer and I had a discussion about web application security. It was like, who cares? We have firewall. What? So yeah, we have this application-aware firewall. Well, it's not really the same thing. So does it understand the JavaScript in your site, or does it understand JSON in your site? It's a different thing. It's pure layer 7 and beyond what is web application security. And then you need to understand the components that are being used to build the application. It's a lot more. Gartner is over-optimistic that by 2020, 70% of all websites and applications are going to be protected by WAF. I'm a little bit pessimistic. I know that it doesn't work, but I was very naive about 15 years ago that we can fix all these information security problems. Now I don't think so anymore. It's like things are getting worse rather than getting better. So if we have 70% of WAF implementations by 2020, that's cool, but I would say that maximum 50, but it's going to be even below that. Lately, there has been some really huge breaches. If we look globally, you can see where I have captured these. If you go to Tech Hacker News main page, pretty much every week you find something that there has been information disclosure by web application hacking. Some well-known applications have been hacked, like LinkedIn, Dropbox, Facebook. Those get most of the screen time and also news time over there. Analytic-wise, web attacks, they are getting kind of the top category, really. So it depends who you ask. Is it number 4 or is it number 1? It's somewhere between that. It's in top 4 of new vectors that are now currently recognized. And this is something that should be taken more seriously. So if we compare web applications, this makes it more serious. It used to be very simplistic to have a website. You had an index.html that had pretty much all the content that you have in the site. Now the websites are fully kind of dynamic by the nature how they are built. So the application is actually rather complex there. Now when we go to this modern world, this fully dynamic content and this high interaction that is built in the web application, it also brings in a lot of libraries, a lot of new code that potentially is vulnerable. If you go with Docker containers, who's guaranteeing that those libraries and binaries that you use there are not vulnerable. So how do you patch that? You take the container down, you do a new one that has non-vulnerable libraries. But how many are actually doing that? Why do we need to have WAF? This has been a question for 10 years that I get. Every time that I go somewhere and have a discussion about WAF, it's like, why do we need it, really? Well, one thing is visibility. So you understand who's visiting your web applications. Are those humans or are they bots? If they are bots, which kind of bots they are? Are they good bots, bad bots, something else, scripts? There's a lot of scanners. If you have a scraper, if you're running a web store, do you want to have a scraper in your site that is copying all your price list and then repricing some other website somewhere else? In Finland, we have this company called Power.fi that is using this web scraper to go to competing store sites and check their prices and reprice their products that they are always the cheapest. So it's kind of in the gray area. Are you allowed to do that or not? If you want to prevent that, you should kind of do something for it. And WAF is one way how you can do it. There's also a lot of vulnerabilities. There's scanners that scan your applications. My joke has been for years that you don't need to scan your web application at all. You can just put it into the internet and somebody will scan it for you. Only problem is that you don't really get the results. That's kind of the bad news. Good news is that it will be scanned, definitely. It will take about 8 minutes when you put it into AWS or Azure. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. Currently, I have about 109 honeypots globally that I have deployed myself, that I follow and see how different security measures are working. Those ones that are native to the cloud, because cloud vendors are saying that, hey, yeah, we're doing a really good job. You don't need to buy any third-party thing. So we take care of you. You don't really need to go for anything else. You just go with the ACLs and the basic stuff that you get from here. At this point, I'm not really convinced. I've been doing this for months, and now it's kind of turning into the favor of having those third-party products and actually do something more comprehensive. So why should we care? Every application, we can break it down into pieces. And every piece in the application might be vulnerable, including the operating system and what we have learned lately, also the CPU that we use to run those applications. So now we can't trust even the hardware, and it's kind of worrisome in that sense. But a lot of those hardware-related vulnerabilities are not hitting into this category. But if you just look in the web application, there are multiple components that build the web application. The actual grounds-up built web application, it includes a lot of components. If you really want to see what those components are doing, WAF is one thing. Well, there's, in our case, it's called FortiWeb. But this is very generic. If you do WAF, WAF has to understand all those components. If it's just OWASP top 10 WAF, you don't really do that much with that kind of solution. OWASP top 10 is a good list, and those are the most common ones that you will see out there as an attacks. Also patching. During this last year, Drupal, WordPress, they have been known to be vulnerable. And how many are actually patching those applications? Yeah. I would like to live in a world where everybody patches their web applications and they do it immediately once there's a patch out there. But the truth is that there are so many web applications out there that nobody's taking care of. So if you want to really take care of your web application, you want to prevent malware distribution through your web application, you definitely should kind of hide those holes that you have in the application. So you can do virtual patching. That's one way of doing it. So meaning that you do patching somewhere else than in the application. So you have your WAF in front of your web application that will do patching for you. It's a very common way of doing it. One fact about WAFs is that they have tons and tons of features, but it doesn't mean that you need to use all of them. You don't need to use all of them. You normally end up breaking your web application if you want to use each and every one of those features. You need to pick and choose those features that you need in one particular use case. Do you want to protect your APIs? Do you want to protect your application from bot attacks? Do you want to protect your application logging process? Do you want to just scan and understand how your application is built? There are tools how you can build better protected web application inside a WAF. Good modern WAF that understands a web application, it normally comes with tons of features. The main problem that we see, and that I have seen in 2 different companies now back to back, is that if there is, let's say, less experienced administrator, they go on and turn on every feature in the device, and then it's okay, crap, it's not working. It's dead, yes. So that's something that you need to be very well aware. If you want to do a WAF in different way, you need to think different. Every web application is like an iceberg, really. You see a little bit of the surface, and the back end is like huge. In some cases, you might have like your CRM or customer CRM is directly connected in the web application. Yeah, it might look like a cool idea. Developer might have been like, yeah, this is like cool, I will do it this way. When somebody hacks your application, it's not that cool anymore. Your CRM is gone. At least the data in that is gone. So we do a few things differently in our implementation. We think about it as a funnel. Funny thing is that the first 4 steps from up to down are actually cleaning about 70 to 90% of everything that will hit a WAF. Malicious IP addresses is a cool thing. We are feeding our information from our own FortiGuard labs that is connected to Cyber Threat Alliance. So we get the information from Palo Alto, we get information from Cisco, we get information from Checkpoint, so we get information from Symantec. Whatever they see, we see as well, and we exchange information together. So just cleaning traffic by IP reputation, you don't even need to decrypt traffic to do that. You can just look at the IP header. Where is it coming from? That's bringing out a lot of crap, really. Like, surprisingly efficient, just to know that. But in our case, when we go a little bit down below, attack signatures, they are cool, but they are also a little bit delayed. So if there's a signature for attack, it's an old one. Then it's known attack. When we want to capture those attacks that are actually new ones, we need to go all the way to the last step, that is a behavioral analytics. And how we do it, we use machine learning. We use data to teach the WAF to make selection, what is a good thing and what is a bad thing. So, coming back to this one, there's a lot of other cool stuff that we do as well. We have a native integration to Sandbox that we do ourselves. We have built-in antivirus that enables us to send files into sandboxing and prevent Monero miners to be injected into your application, your web application. If somebody's uploading some stuff to your site, your location, we can leverage our own antivirus engine. It's not third-party. These are all WAF functionalities. This is all in our WAF. Yes, it is. It's actually, that engine, it's kind of, the name itself is kind of misleading itself. It's multifunction, so we use that to send samples to our analytic services. So the engine is there, but if you pass through traffic like email traffic, if you publish your web like email server, if you still do that, we can send those files that are attached as attachments to your email by that antivirus engine to our own sandbox for analytics. So we use that kind of as a catch and release function in there. No, it's actually L7 DDoS. So if you get this kind of a DOS attack into your application, it might be just sending like a lot of logging attempts. So we can limit how many attempts you can do there. Yeah, brute force. Yeah. Normal implementation in any environment might be like this. You can combine other Fortinet products into it. So if you do it in cloud, if you do it in on-prem, yeah, you can select how you do it. We integrate to most of the known vulnerability scanners, so those are there because of that. Different implementations. Nowadays, it's normally virtual machines or containers. We have a huge variation how you can do it, so you can pick and choose whatever you're going to do. If you have already selected to use AWS WAF, you can select our package in there, so you get kind of the knowledge and feedback of Fortinet into that one. So there are 4 different packages, so 4 different purposes. If you just want to enhance the WAF that you have selected already, we are not so picky about it, or you get it as SaaS service. SaaS service, it's kind of set and forget. This was our first set and forget implementation. So pure signatures, passing traffic through cloud environment, so pretty much publishing your site through our cloud. That was the first implementation. Some customers are pretty happy with this one, but this is light function. It's not full-blown WAF. So how do we do full-blown WAF? One thing that I just want to pressure once more is that if you go with WAF, select what you are going to do with WAF. If you want to do virtual patching, do virtual patching. Don't just talk about it. Because for the last year, this is what I see most of the time, that it's over 6 months before customers are patching their applications, or they are in a situation that vendor who's making the application or the company that is coding the application isn't releasing patches to the application. Like Oracle, for example. For years, there has been cases where Finnish customer finds Oracle flaw, they will report it responsibly, and in 90 days, there will be no patch. In 90 days, there will be a reminder that this is just a feature. It's a minor thing, don't worry about it. Crap. That's not how it should be. So afterwards, if there's something happening, like I see in these cases, I see that something happens. When I return to the same customer, they are surprised that, hey, you were right. But normally it has to be that something has to happen before there will be this revelation that we need to do. There has to be like, yeah, we really need to do something else. So you were right, our firewall wasn't good enough, but it has to happen and it has to be proven that that happened. So vulnerability scanning, for example, it's really, really simple. Scan the application, deliver the information to WAF, and then you are patched. If somebody tries to use that vulnerability against you, is it Drupal, is it WordPress, if it's something else, Oracle, this works. This is super simple to do, but again, you just have to do it. And you need to own a vulnerability scanner. You would be surprised how unwilling a company that is responsible to take care of web applications is really to buy a vulnerability scanner. They don't want to know. Because if they know how vulnerable the applications are, they need to do something. But if they don't know anything, they don't need to do anything. That seems to be, in a lot of cases, the problem. And that has to change. So how we have changed the game within the last 6 months, we released the first machine learning WAF. What does it mean? It means that we simplify the WAF process. WAF process used to be very, very work intensive, meaning that you had to do a lot of pre-configuration. You had to teach the application to WAF. And that's something that most of the customers hated. So going from that teaching application to WAF that is teaching itself is machine learning. That's the only solution. In the back end, what we call FortiGuard Labs, we use artificial intelligence that is mining the information and building signatures and teaching the machine learning in WAF. So it doesn't happen on-prem, the teaching process, so to say. Collection of parameters, collection of information happens locally, but the actual teaching of machine learning will happen somewhere else. So old process, I will fast forward that into final conclusion, was there is like whitelist or blacklist, which is selecting, is this now good or bad? Is this a threat or not? And then if it's not a threat, it was passed through, which leads into cases where there are false negatives passing through, which is not good, but then there's also false positives that end up being blocked, which will break the application. And that's the normal claim that WAF is breaking an application. We shouldn't do it. Or there's kind of, somebody has read from somewhere that applications are broken when we put WAF there. So how we change this process? We do anomaly detection. So we look statistically the probability that this is something good or bad. And if it looks like an anomaly, any kind of anomaly that we are not sure, we will send it for deeper analytics, and everything that we can say according to mathematical probability or statistical probability that is good, we will pass through. And everything that we think that requires further analysis, it will go into machine learning engine, which is taught by FortiGuard Labs. So it is locally processed. So we are not sending the files or sending the connection anywhere external. It will be analyzed by a local entity. There is a machine learning entity running inside a WAF, but it's not a heavy mathematical process. The heavy lifting is done in the back end in FortiGuard. So if we get something that is completely new that we have never seen before, we will send a meta presentation of that into FortiGuard that will be further analyzed there, and then we can teach every machine learning WAF globally to follow that process. This is now our version 1 of this process. So, no, this is technology. So this can be on-prem or cloud. You can select. If you want to do it on-prem in closed environment, it works there. Or if you want to do it in cloud, it works there as well. We are not providing this as a service. It is actually a full-blown product itself. So, end conclusion should be that there is no false positives or false negatives as an end result, but it all depends which kind of data the machine learning is getting. That's the whole point. So how it works, it's very simplified manner. What is normal behavior, what is anomaly behavior, and what is clear attack. Setting these borders is the task of machine learning. So this is what machine learning is really doing. It needs to get samples. It needs to get 2,500 samples currently. So it will learn application. It will learn its parameters. It will learn the structure. It will learn what is good and what is bad. So you can use live traffic to teach your WAF, and then you just turn on those signatures and IP reputation filtering, antivirus, those old mechanisms as far as you have been able to teach your machine learning. Once machine learning is ready, you can drop all those traditional things if you don't want to do them. But it doesn't make sense because it's also controlling what ends up into behavior analysis. You can do pure behavior analysis, WAF, or you can do old mechanism plus behavior analysis in a WAF. Yeah, there's a learning, testing, and then there's implementation. So it will internally do that. This is support vector machine, really, the machine learning inside of this. A lot more in-depth process, which I don't have time to teach in a half an hour. If you want to have deeper discussion about this, we can have it later on. I will be around for the end of the day. So what this actually means is that we are doing application profiling using machine learning. We can do set and forget. So this means that once you implement this, the machine learning will change when your application changes. You don't need to restart the process. It will automatically recognize that and retune the WAF when there's a change. So you don't need to be constantly there looking after the WAF that, hey, now application changed. If your DevOps is doing 4 versions of application per day, every 15 minutes, WAF can change its configuration. But there's a 15-minute border at the moment. So it means that every 15 minutes it will re-evaluate the application. Does it need to do relearning of application? So, yes, this is positive security. So pretty much we are looking what is the positive behavior. So we recognize how you should use the application. Anything that goes into borderline, it goes to deeper analytics. Any anomaly will be analyzed and decided by machine learning. And it's pure mathematics, it's pure probability calculation. So, cool thing that you get out of WAF is that you get full visualization from our WAF product. It's built in, so you get this FortiView out of it. So if you run SOC or NOC, you can get these views out of WAF in real time. You don't need to have external tool to do it. If you have multiple Fortinet products, this will integrate to those automatically. As a summary, and and I'm almost out of time. As a summary, the main thing is that every web application is vulnerable. How they are vulnerable, do we know it right now, or is it something that we will learn later on? There's always possibility of that you have something really seriously wrong. That's what I have learned in the last 20 years in information security, is that there's always something that you can't think today that will be revealed to you tomorrow, really. So every web application has potential vectors in there. If you do your code line by line verification, you verify your libraries, you verify your binaries, you might have less vulnerabilities than in case if you don't do it. So WAF is pretty much needed nowadays. And it's set and forget. We were the first one in the market that came up with this. We have been leveraging machine learning in our products before, but this was our kind of invention that we made. This was our decision. We didn't want to do application learning anymore. If you install the latest version of FortiWeb WAF, there is no application learning anymore. We threw that away. Machine learning is working now, and we have cases for it. Last thing that I will leave you with is that when you do security altogether, now when we are here in an information security conference, we need to remember that technology is only 1/3 of things that you need to do. You need to remember people. Teach your people. Take care of your people. Keep them educated. Teach them to think security-oriented. So if somebody calls them and asks their password, don't let them give it out. Or if somebody says that they are calling from Apple, they are probably not calling from Apple. Ask them to call back. Ask where is your switching center. Teach your people. So make people think more secure. Then there are processes, and then there's technology. If you want to succeed in security policies and security solutions, do this in a correct way. Last slide before I'm done. What you should do, really, security-wise, is to think how you automate your security processes. If you buy best-of-breed products from each and every category, can you ever integrate those? That's a huge thing. What we have been doing for the last 4 years, we have integrated everything that we do. They automatically integrate to each other. It takes less than 1 minute to do the whole process. So it is really, really fine-tuned thing. But this is what we do as a kind of security company. We are in top 5 globally currently, according to IDC. So we do something right with this one. So you don't have enough people to do all security tasks. Automate. Think about the process, including web applications, firewalls, endpoint. Build honeypots. Honeypots are revealing a lot of things to you. Be innovative. That's the thing. So think with your own brain in this. So thank you. That was my half an hour. In a half an hour, I'll be here talking about SD-WAN. So if you have any questions in the meantime, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Timo. Is there any more questions for Timo from Fortinet? Excuse me?
False positives with
So far with the machine learning, we haven't really... So far we haven't been proven once we go to machine learning that it will do false positives, really. So if we do pure application learning, there we can see that there's false positives in a while, but if we just do machine learning, the hit percent in there is really, really cool. Of course, it's because it's machine learning, it depends on the data that you feed to the application. So if you give corrupt data, it will do false positives. So it is possible to make false positives, but if you do it according to the process, how you teach the machine learning, you give just good data for it, then it will do most likely 0 false positives. Of course, there's always one condition that you can, at least few, that you can make it do also false positives. Yes.
Thank you very much.